Now, it's not that often that we get to have one of the biggest bettors in the country on the show, and we have one of the most outspoken bettors on the show. And both great personalities, really interesting people, lots going on. So the goal today is to talk, hopefully, to some conclusions or recommendations or just something productive around all the stuff happening. But I don't think you guys have ever met before, have you?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Nope.
Okay, so
we might have been at the same tracks at the same time, but we hadn't been formally introduced.
well, Don, you've probably stolen some of Shu's lunch money, I'm guessing.
Well, he's probably,
I'm sure he did it ethically and everything was by the book.
I mean, if you're smart, you're smart. But at the end of the day, why don't you guys give each other your backgrounds here just for everybody, because I have a feeling more people might watch this and want to know kind of what kind of players you are, how you've been in the game, just real quick, just like a brief summary, because I know, Don, you've had a plethora of experience in the game, and so have you, Shu.
Well, why don't I start out by answering the question? Unfortunately, on the panel that Christian and I sat on, they had a moderator, Michelle Fisher, not her fault, but just the way the event coordinator set up the stage. Two of us were on one side, Pat Cummings and I, and on the other side was Christian and the other panelists. And then Michelle Fisher with this giant podium was in between us. And we didn't have an audio monitor sitting in front of us, so we couldn't hear them, and they had trouble hearing us. So when we tried to have dialogue back and forth, we couldn't really talk to each other. And by the time we did understand the questions, then the conversation had moved on with the moderator to something else. And one of the questions was, Christian was asking me how did I come to be, and let me clear that up too. Look, I work with one of the larger CAW players, and I've worked with other CAW players on different projects at different times, some connected to horse racing, some not connected to horse racing. And I think everybody knows my history about Atlantic City and the casinos and Vegas and the game of blackjack. I wouldn't really compare the game of blackjack to the complications involved in building a horse handicapping model, simultaneously marrying it to an investment engine, or we call it a betting module, and then maintaining a database that goes with that so that you have accurate information. It's a very complicated process. But backing up from that, how I got there was I started out in the industry. I was born into it. I was born into an industry. I fell in love with the industry at a young age, grew up on a farm in Oregon that raised thoroughbred horses. It was my uncle's farm. I later became a jockey. I rode for a few years, but I'm 6'1", weighing 108 pounds really wasn't in the cards for me. So I'm speeding this up so we can get to the better part of this conversation. Anyway, so I became a state regulator, regulating as a state steward, a presiding steward in some states. I was executive director of the Wyoming Parimutuel Commission under two different governors, sat in as hearings examiner on several cases, several drug-related cases, mind you, and worked in the state of Texas as Governor Ann Richards, first presiding judge or presiding steward, as they would call it. I was stationed down around San Antonio, the name of the town where the first races were. They had some fairs, and I was at Bandera Downs. Then fast forward from that, I worked for Department of Law Enforcement in the state of Idaho. So I held several different senior regulatory positions within the industry. And then I got into managing racetracks on the West Coast, Portland Meadows race course, where I was president and CEO. That track is no longer around. I managed Spokane race courses track, which was at the time, I was president and CEO for Muckleshoot Tribal Horse Racing Corporation. At the time, Muckleshoot Tribe had a license in Spokane, Washington, where they were operating the track. That track is no longer around. No fault of mine, by the way. The track did operate after I left. I just moved on to doing other things. In between those two positions, I managed Philadelphia Park Racetrack in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Now is Parks Racing and Gaming. I worked on the racing side, obviously. There wasn't a casino back then. I was their first general manager for the Brits when they first started. And that's when this professional handicapping, this professional gambling part of my life really started. I had, when I first got there, we didn't really have a director's room, and our players were spread out around the track. No, they got a blender going again.
That's all right. It'll end soon.
I'll wait 1 second when they. So these players were spread out amongst different floors at the track, and we really, when we would take a dip and handle, we didn't really know who the players were precisely. So we built a director's room and invited our largest players into the director's room so that we could monitor how they were doing, so that I could figure out how I could look after them as GM as best I could, and maybe even help them with some different toolkits to make them better players. Once they were all in the director's room, I began to notice that the same guys were coming there every week playing our live product. And then as we began to get full card simulcasting, they were playing more and more content, more and more racing cards. But backing up to when they were playing our product, they were actually beating a market with no rebate. It wasn't giving them a rebate at the time, but they were beating the pools with a, what would it be? Like maybe Pennsylvania has a little bit higher hold, so maybe there was about a 22% average hold across all the bets that they were making. These guys were really good. They weren't, they wouldn't be your average player. I guess at the time, they would have been a semi-pro with the tools that they were using back then, whether it was Ragusan sheets, whether it was pace numbers, then it was just daily racing form. Then later on that morphed into something different. So we had the idea that if we gave them, find out what they're using, and if we started buying these toolkits for them or this information for them, is this actually an information or data-driven part of the business? Can we make them stronger players, especially as we got full card simulcasting? We wanted our guys to be as efficient as possible. And that's when I realized that as we added more content, those guys reached their physical inhibitor. They couldn't bet more product because it took them too long to process all the data that they needed in order to come up with their probability lines and then start betting. And now I'll fast forward to what I had shown at the panel. We started to see the landscape change as technology started to skyrocket and improve rapidly. What we were trying to do in delivering toolkits to them in the form of data like Ragusan sheets or raw numbers or daily racing form past performances, as technology improved, so did the delivery services of getting this information to them. And then players became more sophisticated. Players were adaptable to using that technology and how they stored that data. Some of them developed into actually having their own cloud servers with their own databases of information that they gathered, information that they created themselves through the form of confirmation notes, through the form of trip notes, to the form of things that they created on their own and were able to back test to find out that these features would actually add lift to the models that they're handicapping that they were already using, to see if when they back tested it was going to have a positive effect on their betting. And lo and behold, it did for some of these guys. Now, some of those guys that were, once upon a time were in my director's room, those at the time that were pros, those that weren't adaptable as technology kept improving, we get closer to the modern day of where we are here, where we are now. That is where the computer-assisted wagering players emerged. And these were the most adaptable players to using technology in order for them to create handicapping models, investment modules, and features within those models so that they can weight them properly and then make better guesses as to how educated guesses as how they were going to do their betting. And then we get into the modern era.
Well, let's pause there. So obviously, you've got a lot of credentials that can help at least think of, what we can do next here. So she might have, maybe a few feathers in his cap too. But at least on this conversation, it's really encouraging to see your breadth of experience so that you can look at it through the eyes of a racetrack manager or a regulator, a former law enforcement advisor, or a top player and a jockey. So you're wearing a lot of hats here. That's cool. So we're going to get into kind of what we want to present, I think, to the industry here. And I think one of the big topics that we want to talk about is transparency. But before we do that, Shu, you're never this quiet in life. Usually you're tweeting. What does Dawn need to know about you? And then I'll let you kind of kick off the direction of where you want to start with what we should be talking about now.
Listen, I'm on a farm in Ohio. It's very peaceful. It's very scenic. I'm trying to behave myself. There's been a lot going around in horse racing and horse racing Twitter. And, listen, I like to think of myself as a man of the people and a man of the retail player. And that's who I look out for. And when we see a lot of scandals that are going on currently and in the past, I try to fight for the everyday gambler, the everyday horse player in this sport, to have some sort of not competitive advantage, but just have a foot in the door to at least try to win every day. And the more scandals come out, the more just pure, I don't even know the word to put on it, but just the absolute disgrace that the industry has been for the last few months, especially around HISA and the protocols they've implemented around CAWs and the advantages they have over the retail players like myself. It's extremely frustrating, and we're losing horse players every day. And CAWs like yours are helping drive away horse players every day. And now Naira and David O'Rourke have done a phenomenal job at restricting CAW play inside of 2 minutes in New York. So we're seeing strides in the right direction with Saratoga. We're not seeing the late odds drops on win horses. We're seeing them in doubles and exactas get hit hard late, but not in the win pools, we'll take that win as a retail player. But there's so many questions that are left unanswered. And we saw, Dave Portnoy again tweet today about a trainer possibly cheating and taking shortcuts. And, we have an instance in one of our racetracks where someone's going on the backside and drugging horses. We have the Fair Hill 5, which people in Europe and the books over there got pounded. There's too many things kind of working against the retail horse player. And I try to fight for the everyday player. That's who I am. That's who I am on Twitter. I fight for the everyday trainer, the everyday horseman who's trying to do the right thing. And we look at CAWs, and listen, we know you guys gamble an extremely large amount of money. And you guys have the racetracks and the industry by the balls, absolutely by the balls. But when you read about these things and you hear about this, and then the Marshall Gramm stuff comes out, there is not a doubt in any horse player's mind today that CAWs are given an edge and are given to access to data and odds in real time that the everyday horse player is not. Now, you may think that's fair. I don't. So I'm a relentless fighter for the average gambler, the average retail bettor, especially the horse player. And that's who I represent on Twitter. That's all you need to know about me.
Now, Daniel, let me just correct a couple of misstatements. The CAW player does not have access to data that you don't have access if you want to spend the time to find it. If you want to use it, then you can use it any way you like. It's yours
Marshall Gramm
to analyze any way that you like. As far as access to the odds line, they see the same odds line that you do. They don't see it in any different timing. And as far as access to the pool and dropping an electronic bet into the pool, you can do that at the same speed with your handheld device if you're using it in conjunction with a cloud computer, or from your desktop if you're sitting in your office or you're sitting at home.
What person have you ever met? You go to these racetracks. Do you see a retail gambler using a cloud computer behind them when they're putting bets in?
I see them using their cell phones.
Exactly, just like me. So when you guys are batch betting under 2 minutes to post or 30 seconds, and we see odds drop at Del Mar, they don't even show the odds. They don't even show. They've given up. They've completely given up. They don't even show you the odds during the race because CAW teams have destroyed late numbers.
But wait, hold on. I talked to Josh not too long ago, and they are not allowing the CAWs to bet through their accounts in the last 2 minutes in the win pool.
At Del Mar?
That's exactly true at Del Mar. We don't have any wagers that go in late. So if you're seeing an odds drop that continues through this season, you're mistaken.
It might be March 10th.
When you watch a race at Del Mar, all I'm saying is when you watch a race at Del Mar, there's no odds.
You're also making a gross misstatement when you put this statement out there like cheating doesn't affect us too. It affects us too. If somebody's doping a horse, do you think that we're a proponent for that? No, we find that as repulsive and negative to the industry is what you do. That doesn't help us.
Yeah.
How do you guys?
We don't have any way to benefit from somebody doping a horse.
How does CAWs battle cheating in horse racing?
That wasn't your statement.
I'm asking a question. You have your algorithms, you have your systems, you have your, whatever data you use.
Daniel, you're asking me to prove a negative.
I'm asking how CAWs deal with cheating in horse racing.
How do you prevent cheating in horse racing?
I'm not asking prevent. I'm saying how do you handle it? How do you handle cheating in the game of horse racing?
How do I personally handle it?
No, how does their CAW team?
Regulator anymore.
How does your CAW team handle it? You have models, you have thoroughgraphs, you have rags, whatever data you guys use. How do you guys overcome a possible cheating scenario within a race? How do you not lose your butts because trainer X?
We do. It happens all the time. We don't hit every race like you purport out there to the public. And when we miss, you get sized up. You just don't get sized up as often as you would like. And you know what? I'm a little bit frustrated because you make this assumption that when you handicap a horse, you're the only person that can find value in that horse, and you think that people that put in more resources into their handicapping than you put into your handicapping aren't going to find the same value in that same horse. They won't always, but they will correlate with you or you'll correlate with them. So why is that a bad thing? Cheating is always a bad thing, but cheating affects everybody that's in these pools. Cheating affects everybody in these pools in a negative way, just the same as it does you, is the same as it would me. None of us want that. And none of us want pools that are not long-term sustainable. We're all looking for the same thing.
Do you think horse racing pools today are long-term sustainable?
I think that you're naive if you don't think that they're going to become more efficient as time goes on because technology keeps improving. And if you're not adaptable enough to figure out how to use technology or even use the simple AI assistant in helping you with some of your research, then you're probably going to get left behind, just like some of those guys did in my director's room years ago. I mean,
so do you think the retail player has a chance anymore?
Absolutely. I think the retail player, not as you define it and keep telling them that they can't get better. My God, if you show up at a race, a foot race, you look across the line and say, oh my God, I can't possibly beat any of those guys. Just look at them. For whatever reason, you have no chance of winning that race. I don't look at life that way. I look across a spectrum of different levels of players from the, you call them retail, I call them, there's a whole spectrum of players in that retail pocket. They go for everywhere from being a casual recreational player. They go into a spectrum of being I don't know what you want to call a high-end retail player. And then they enter a realm where they're headed up a bell curve and they become the semi-pro. And the semi-pro is trying to catch the CAW, who's ahead of them on that bell curve. And then at the top of the bell curve, you run into the adaptable advanced technology players, as I define them. And you could move anywhere you want on that bell curve if you're willing to put in the resources and the time to do it. You could do it. And you know what? You've been handicapping long enough. I would guarantee that if I worked with you, I'm not saying I'm going to, but if you and I work together with your racing perspicacity on handicapping, I could probably find ways using different AI assistant tools that will help your handicapping and help your betting module, investment module, in a way that you would actually improve your handicapping. And then you might be able to understand that you also can move anywhere on that spectrum, on that bell curve. You don't have to stay at the bottom. Anybody can do this. And I'm telling you,
first and foremost,
I've worked with so many of these aggressive Zen generation young adults that are amazingly bright. Some of these people. These guys they're thinking of things that a lot of other guys that I've worked with for years haven't thought of yet. They're coming. That's the next generation. That next generation, if the guys that are above them on the bell curve today don't keep at it and keep improving their models, guess what? They're going to fall off they're going to fall further down the bell curve than where they are today. You can't be
the computers. The computers are cute. They're adorable. You write AI programs. You use will pays to map out things. You have advanced looks inside the tote system at will pays that the retail player doesn't get. I'm the greatest turf handicapper in the world. I'm the greatest turf handicapper in the world. You couldn't handicap a turf race in the dark against me.
You keep telling the public something that you have a handheld device in your hand that you use every day. Every day. That handheld device has more power in it today than computers had just 5 years ago. And they're getting better. They're getting faster. You have access to the same tools that everybody else does. You could do it.
Listen, I'm the greatest turf handicapper in the world. You couldn't handicap a turf race.
Telling yourself you can't get there.
Listen, I'm the greatest turf handicapper in the world. I'm a great handicapper. Now, where I fall short is I'm a terrible gambler. I'm a terrible gambler, and I'm a degenerate gambler. So I may win at Saratoga today, hit a few turf races, but I'll blow it at Charlestown tonight.
Stated it. If you believe you're a degenerate gambler, you are that guy that wasn't able to adapt from my director's room, and he fell off the chart. He wasn't competitive anymore. And now he is that retail player that goes out to the track and he just enjoys the day at the races.
Well, so shoot. We talked, when we first brought you on as a guest right away with this, and you even listened a little bit about my whole point, which was, I'm betting significantly less. I'm a sniper. Okay, you've taken that approach. In some ways, you're going to try to slam maybe 2 races, maybe 3, and you're not going to. You can bet your little fluff money or your money, but so you have it in you to get better. So the question is, how bad do you want it, and how much time you want to put into it?
For sure.
So I do think you have to adhere to his point that you can get better at this, and you can say it's impossible and this and that. But I do think, given the AI tools today, you probably could just run a good,
You're 100% right, Christian, and I've listened to you, and I've tried to target races where I'm more successful at and avoid the cheap dirt claiming races at Saratoga, focus on the turf racing, the allowance races, the stakes races. I certainly have done that, and I appreciate that. And I've tried to target more of my plays because over the long term, and now this is what you see, especially with CAWs, if they have after they've entered the market, is in order to be profitable over the course of a race day, especially betting more than one racetrack, you have to be selective because, you used to go to Monmouth Park, and if you hit 2 exactas, you could walk out of there a winner. But because of CAWs and the amount of money and the amount of dilution of the pools that they've created, now you need to hit 4 exactas to walk away profitable. The CAWs have created an impossible system for a lot of horse players who, again, the minority of horse players are degenerate gamblers.
It's not
You've
impossible.
watered down the pools so much, and you hide behind your paywall, and you've watered down pools so much. Listen, I've sat with Jamie O, who I respect a lot, and I respect Jamie O. Jamie O pulled up a grid. We were at Preakness Week hanging out with Jamie O, and he pulled up a grid of his pick 4 will pays, and I hit the pick 4 that night. He had every number in the pick 4 covered at least 3 or 4 times. Some 15, some 10, some just 2. If that isn't watering down the pools, I don't know what your definition of watering down the pools is. You've completely crushed. You've completely crushed the retail player.
Okay, hold on. Let me just
How much did he put into the pool?
Yeah, Don, give me a second here. Let me just clarify this. So the pool is the pool. It's going to have as much money in it that can come from anybody. So whether it's CAWs that can represent 30 to 40%, or it's, just average everyday degenerates that represent 20%, the pool is always going to evolve and grow. And that's a good thing that it grows. Now, what's happened is, Don brought up, is that the assistance that we have today, and I'm not a CAW, and I can bet a lot if I believe in it, but the product is so bad right now that it's changed the game to put
and I agree with you. That's a different issue. A different question is that, yes, field size matters a lot, because there's no way not to correlate with one another when you've got 5, 6 horse fields, 4 horse fields in some circumstances. Some of these small tracks are running 3, 4 horse fields. It's impossible. You're going to correlate with winning players. You have to. Yeah.
So let me just say this then. So there's going to always be LeBron James, Steph Curry's, Tom Brady's, Patrick Mahomes, whoever you want to go on your list. I was a Barry Sanders guy, but the fact is, there's going to be separation. So the question becomes, where do you want to stay playing this game anymore, Shu? Do you want to walk away? Do you want to say, hey, I'm just going to raise the white flag and say I can't beat these guys, the product sucks, the CAWs are smarter, the kids that are PhD students have all the AI agents running stuff. So hold on. So I want to ask you, given the landscape that we're dealing with, okay, this is what you sign up for when you bet on horses. You're going up against people that are smarter than you. You know that you're going up against people that train and own and ride horses, and that everybody talks, just like every other industry. Every single company has a friend that knows something, and there's a reason that there's constraints and laws to regulate that. So knowing that that is the game that you're playing when you're betting on horses, you have to decide how much money and time and effort and how much you love the game, because you can shift your dollars and bet less. But I do want to turn this into constructive discussion now. So we can complain, or we can actually design options. Now, the CAWs aren't going away. They're going to get smarter. The PhDs are coming that are building AI stuff with Claude coding and everything else. So it's just going to get harder and harder. The product isn't going to be growing anytime soon. There's not going to be 8 horse fields anytime soon. So given all of that, and given the fact that we had a major scandal with HISA and Gramm getting access, so I wanted to ask you guys, what are we going to do now? Are we just going to complain? Is the whole industry going to buckle and just point fingers and just say but this is what it is? It's going to happen every once in a while. So I want to turn the conversation to, I think, a topic that, Don and I kind of brushed on it a little bit at the panel in Saratoga. What do we do with regard to transparency now? How much information we have to have it symmetrical, because it's either we share everything or we share nothing.
You're asking a CAW player for transparency. I have never seen a CAW put out a set of bets in my life. CAW players are the most non-transparent people on the planet, and they don't want anybody to know what they're betting. They don't want people to know what their rebates are. They don't want them to see their pick 5 and pick 6 tickets, and they'll never show them. They are the least transparent groups of people on the earth.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So
Why are you saying?
Hold on, Don. Hold on. So when it comes to this word transparency, It sounds like we have to set some parameters and decide what is fair, because I don't want everybody knowing what I bet on, because why would I want to share that shoe? I've been playing the tournaments and probably won over 30 something now and cash
and people see your plays, and people can see your plays.
Not always.
No, they don't see his plays.
Not
In the
always.
big tournaments, they can.
Sometimes. But the fact is, people can see stuff, and I think there's some merit to that. There is a point where maybe, especially if you finish in the top 10, I do think that makes sense. But poker players, they're not showing their hold cards in real time or right after. I mean, poker would be over if that happened. It just, people would go back to side games. There'd be no World Series of Poker. So privacy is very important to everybody in all walks of life. And even with HISA, like, do these medical records need to be shown? Because you're going to be learning what trainers do. And you're also going to have an issue. I heard Lisa talk about it. Are the vets going to even share what they're doing with these horses if they know that everything's going to be in the public? And then we're going to go back in time again. So I do think, whether you're asking Don to share his bets, I don't think that's cool. But I do think there should be some maybe indication when some big hits come in. If maybe it came from the collective of CAWs, if you want, I'm okay with something like that. But Don, what do you think about the transparency issue with, let's say, the big teams? Let's start there, and then we'll go to HISA. How much information is private, and how much should be actually shared with the general public?
I don't think anybody's going to agree that they will be sharing features or variables that are in their models and how they weight them. That is proprietary. Once the bets hit the pools, though, you're seeing it. You're seeing the effect on it. You bring Del Mar up as an example. You see it at 2 minutes to post. You see what their position is. You see it at Naira, and you can now take your position in that pool. You think you can beat this market given that they've had an effect on it. I don't know if you can get there, because you admittedly say that they can't be beat, but I'm here to tell you that they can be beat. You likely have information that you don't even know is an advantage over some things that they can't do. They can't get information on the ground in real time. You're probably at tracks more often than they are, at tracks that you actually bet on. You will be able to take advantage of that information where they can't.
Well, I would say that Dominic and Jelko, they got to have guys on the ground looking at feet in the paddock and stuff like that. They got to have that information.
Boots on the ground at every track?
I would say
They got vets on the payroll.
Yeah, not likely. I don't think so.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. I mean,
and if they did with today's technology, it's past putting boots on the ground. You think, we thought about it, but you could do that with high-def digital TV watching these horses in the paddock. You could have veterinarians that give an opinion on whatever kind of confirmation note you're looking for horses in the paddock. You could use your own facial recognition software that is possibly programmed for looking at horses to see if there's a difference between the last time he raced and does his facial recognition look different this time. They do it for humans and biometrics. Why can't they do that for horses? I don't know anybody that's doing that, but I'm saying these things are coming. You can't avoid it. It's going to come, the pool's going to get more efficient, and this younger generation will know how to use it.
So then let's land on a point here. So what would you think, on both of you guys, what do you want to see, or what, Don, would you be willing to say is fair? Do you think that if somebody hits the pick six, it should be public, that it comes from one of the top 20 teams? Or do you think that's not fair to the public?
I would compare it to the lottery. If somebody hits the lottery and they want to remain anonymous, they can remain anonymous. Personally, I don't really, it doesn't bother me if somebody knows that somebody hit the lottery or hit one of these jackpot pick sixes. But if somebody wants to remain private, is that their right to remain private?
Well, I guess in this case, we're not even talking about the individual. We don't need to know it came from you. It's just a question of, we want to know, does it come from because I guess it comes back to Shu's point that you have a lot of CAWs that bet in large increments, and then that is unfortunately when someone's betting with smaller bankrolls, they're gonna feel like, oh well, I can't get to the prize I used to get to 10 years ago because the algorithms are just eating me alive. And so I guess I'm just gonna call it what it is. It's evolution. There's gonna be people that are smarter and they're gonna get together.
I totally get it. And again, if a CAW group like Dom's or anybody else's came out in a pick six at Gulfstream Park or Del Mar, wherever, pays, $800,000, and they produce a ticket and it goes literally all, that's fine. The average horse player would laugh, but they'd be like, they could accept it. They could be like, okay,
That's a ridiculous remark.
Well, I'm just stating an example, Don. I'm just stating an example.
It's an example of absurdity, though. Nobody's.
I'm just saying, why are you guys afraid? Why are racetracks afraid to produce tickets on big winning ticket days like Rainbow Sixes at Gulfstream or a big pick 5 or a big pick 6? Why are racetracks or CAWs afraid to produce their ticket? I mean, if you single a horse that was 4-1, I'm going to go back and look at my notes and say, okay, that made sense for XYZ reasons. Okay, I can learn from that. But the CAWs are never willing to do that. You see retail players all over Twitter posting tickets left and right. I hit a big daily double or pick 3, a pick 5. I'm not scared to do it. Why are you guys scared to do it?
Why do you do it? Well, I understand.
Why are you scared to do it?
They're not scared to do it. They enjoy it.
Apparently you are.
They enjoy their privacy and they have a right to.
Why do you enjoy your privacy? Because you get.
Why do you do it? You post because
I don't post many winning tickets. To be honest with you, but a lot of people on horse racing Twitter do. I don't play very large tickets. I don't play very large tickets. I play very small, regular sized tickets. You guys are the ones that play the jumbo tickets, and I'd love to learn or see what horse you singled, this and that. To me, Don, and let's just take a second here. CAWs are the most modern form of the mob that we've ever seen in our lives. This is organized crime. You're part of an organized crime outfit. Whether you're laundering money, whether you're looking for an edge, you have the racetracks in the industry by the balls because you gamble large sums of money. We just had an instance at Gulfstream Park a few months ago where horses were getting drugged in the middle of the night. Those horses happen to be even money favorites. Let me go on, Don. Let me finish my statement, Don. Let me finish my story. Let me finish my story.
I'm not going to let you. It's not a story.
You have an instance where trainers' horses are getting drugged in the middle of the night.
You were trying to connect the CAW community to doping horses in the middle of the night.
I'm not connecting anything. I'm raising the question.
Then why are you putting it in the same
I'm raising the question because there's no accountability and transparency with your plays. And I'd love for certain things to get posted and shared because there's a lot of shady things going around in horse racing, and the average retail gambler doesn't trust you guys. That's a big issue, Don.
So let me hear you out then, Shu. So I think this is an interesting direction you're going. So your concern is that when that scandal came up where some people, there was a guy that put some in the water and the horses were favorites and then they didn't run. What you want is to have some visibility, some transparency to see who hit the pick 6 that day, how many people didn't use favorites, or what were the top teams not using those horses. And I think that comes back down to how much responsibility is on the wagering, the back end, and the security protocols that are part of the industry, whether it's the TRPB or whomever is responsible for that. And that's an interesting question, and I think we could entertain that for a moment here, because and if Don's if the CAWs are crushing it, I really find it hard to believe that they would even jeopardize anything of any caliber of sort of anything like that. So I think let's just take a break and say, okay, if that's what you're calling for, Shu, more transparency on especially the Fairhill 5 or whatever, I think that's a reasonable ask that you could bring forth to whether it's the track, whether it's the ADWs, or whether it's the regulators and say, hey, we believe that we deserve to know where did that money, where was the substantial dollars earned, and by whom? Was it CAW? Was it not? And would that satisfy you?
And I've had a lot of talk with racetracks, right? And they do such a tremendous job in this industry of promoting Pick 5 carryovers, Rainbow Six carryovers. You know, we hear it every day in this industry. Oh, there's a large pool here. There's this and that. TVG in the past, FanDuel, Naira Bets now. The tracks do an amazing job of promoting these large pools. What they do a terrible job is telling you who won. And if people played the lottery every day and you never heard who won the mega millions or this, nobody would play again because they wouldn't trust it. So, you know, people like to see Suzanne in Oklahoma hit the mega millions. That's like a feel good story, right? Like, oh my God, I can do it. The sports books do a tremendous job of sharing parlays and big bets on Twitter. Look at this guy. He bet $200,000 on the Eagles to win the Super Bowl before the season started, and he cashed out for, $2 million, whatever it might be. Horse racing does a terrible, terrible job at telling you who wins, and it's a big marketing problem overall. It's not just CAWs, it's retail too.
Even in the sports betting community, players have a right to privacy. Not all big parlay payouts are published. They don't give the identity to people for whatever reason. They enjoy their privacy. Maybe it's an office pool that they distributed amongst. I don't know. I don't know what their reasons are individually. I'm more concerned about your statement about trying to connect dots between horses getting drugged at a racetrack, and somehow that leads to that there's never been any evidence here that it leads towards one community of bettors over here. And there is a policing agency within the horse racing industry called the TRPB. Racing, you don't believe that there is?
What? Are you seriously going to mention that right now?
You don't think that there is?
How'd that work out with the Ochoa scandal?
There's an SEC
how'd that work out with the Ochoa scandal? How'd that work out?
You don't think that you're gonna have scandals in every industry. I'm not excusing it. I'm saying if there are bad actors.
We're talking about gambling here. We're talking about gambling on horses running around in circles.
Yeah,
there's shady shit going on every day.
Gambling on horse races in the stock market.
There's nothing.
That's the biggest gambling pool in the world.
And there's just as many crimes committed there every day.
And when people get caught breaking the rules, they get penalized. They get suspended. Some get put in jail. So where's your comment in trying to connect dots based on zero evidence?
You guys are scared of your own shadow. You CAWs are scared of their own shadow because they want you to believe that they have this epic system and people in China watching replays, and you guys are taking shortcuts and you're getting info from the tracks because you got them by the balls because you're gambling so much money. You're laundering money and you're taking shortcuts. You couldn't handicap a race. I invite you to a racetrack.
You don't have yourself.
You can sit next to me at a racetrack, and I'll give you $100 for every winner you pick over me. How about that?
Well, shoot, you're gonna don't give up your kids' college fund. Don't do that, dude. But what I'm saying is like you have a lot of emotion and passion, and you have your heart's in the game. And obviously it sucks to see it where it's at. It sucks to see less tracks, less horses, less odds volatility. Everybody loves point fingers. Right now, this is the biggest finger pointing war zone I've ever seen. So I want to just land on a few points here. So yeah, I don't think you are entitled to connect your dots however you will. But there is
not without evidence, he isn't.
Well, he can. Consensus. You can
have an opinion.
Yeah, you can have an opinion.
It's just like his complaint with the Baffert case. I mean, let's just bring that up.
No, don't go there. Don't go there.
Why? You still have.
Don't go there. It's not going to end well for you. It's not going to end well for you, Dom.
Well, let's not.
It's not going to end well for you.
No, let's not do that. We don't need to get into like old. Again, the whole point of this show or this conversation is to bring on. I wanted to show two different perspectives on transparency is one topic. So let's get back to that. Do you believe that, first of all, and we're going to talk about HISA, but right now, is it okay for CAW money scores big scores or some scores to be public knowledge. So Shu wants that. What do you think, Don? Do you think that that is acceptable to some extreme or to some extent? Do you have any issues, not saying names, but having a visual like representation of what the CAW scores are? Do you have a problem with that, or what do you think?
It used to be published. Where was it at? In California, there was some record of it in the state of Florida. Obviously, if states are requiring it, then they're requiring it. Let them publish it. Okay. I don't have an opinion against it, but I don't think that people should be obligated to publish that they just won some big jackpot to become a bullseye or a target for somebody that might want to do them harm or their families harm. Okay, people have reasons. People have reasons for privacy.
No, I'm talking not individually, but I think to Shu, your point was really smart about the idea that the game does a horrible job of celebrating the winners, right? And we don't market the players. We don't market this as a gambling game. So that is it's kind of sexy if you know that, hey, the CAWs crushed it and hit this pick six that nobody had, or they didn't, and they missed some really stupid stuff that they probably should have had, right? So this whole idea of not man versus machine, but something like that is, high velocity trading firms versus, whether you call them semi-pros or just, horse lovers, horse players. I think that's got some virality to it. So I'm actually okay with that. So I would definitely push for that. But let's talk about HISA right now. And I wanted to just given the fact that edges exist in every single part of life, whether you want to try to meet a woman and you want to present yourself a certain way or show up with a certain person or, say you're at this, walk of life, or, if you want to try to get a job and you want to position yourself a certain way and talk to somebody at LinkedIn or have somebody arrange a dinner, and, edges are part of life. So CAWs have edges because they spend the money and the resources, and yes, they push it. They push it and they get access and they pay for that. And there's a question of how much should the average person have access to. And we've all agreed that the average player should have access in some ways, but they're going to have to pay for that. So when it comes to landing on what information should be shared about the health of horses, where do you stand with this? Because on one end of the spectrum, I can say, hey, yeah, it's out there. Somebody's getting it. The trainers and the trainers and the vets all know. And they have the ability to tell people or to text people or to casually gesture to people that they know.
Look, when it comes to HISA and these medication records, I was actually quite shocked to find out that anybody has a special portal to access that confidential information. As a horse owner, I can tell you, I don't need HISA to tell me the medical record of my horse. I pay the bills. I mean, I know what the horse has been medicated on. Why do I need a special access portal? And if that does exist, it tells me that there is a national database. Why isn't the whole thing public? And I've been petitioning state racing commissions for 20 years, starting with the California Horse Racing Board and their state vet at least 20 years ago, and continuously I'll pop up and try and petition again to make all medical records. If a horse is engaged in racing, why aren't they all public? If the horse was treated for a sneeze, why isn't that a public record?
Don, did you have access to vet records? Did you have the access?
Access to what vet records?
The vet records that Marshall Gramm had.
Absolutely not. And that's my point, is that I was shocked that there was even a private portal for your own horses, because as a horse owner, I don't need them to tell me. I know what my vet was charging me. I know what the horse has been treated for. But if that database does exist, my position would be it should be available to everybody. Let the public make what they will from the medical record, provided there's not an ongoing investigation, provided that there isn't something with reason that is proprietary that can't be put out there in the public.
Do you think do you think other CAW players might have had access to that?
I don't know. I don't think it makes sense to me. I'm trying to add up the numbers with this thing. And I mean, even the claiming of the 9 horses, it was not even a profit made. The whole thing was a failed project. Spend 210,000 to make 84,455 or 554, whatever it was. You got to pay 10% to the purses, to the jockey, 10% to the trainer, 5% to the barn. What are they left with when you boil it down? And then you got the monthly fee of keeping a horse in training at these. It's like 5,000 or more a month. You're in the hole. Where's the game? Who would build a business model to lose money? Who was doing the back testing if this was so cleverly thought out? And this is just me running through it, trying to figure out. I'm trying to connect the dots like you, Daniel, on that one. I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get who did this, who benefited from this. There's a few of those horses that if I was the owner that they were claimed off of, I don't want them back. You just saved me money. And I see in one of Lisa's recent statements, she said that they will offer them back if they want them. I think
money
all those owners want them back.
Money launderers is probably the answer to that question.
Again, you keep coming up with these innuendo type, what? That's a statement. That's not a question. A question would be is money laundering going on? You don't know that. I don't know that. We have
money laundering has been going on in horse racing for over 100 years.
You've been doing horse racing for 100 years.
Money laundering has been going on in horse racing for 100 years.
Well,
okay.
Let's
money laundering's been going on in casinos. It's been going on in banking.
Yes.
It's been going on in the stock market.
Big time.
What is the relevance of that when it has to do with this puzzle? It doesn't.
You tell me. You tell me.
It doesn't add up, is what I said.
You tell me. I don't know.
Again, I don't see the connection to a CAW process because it doesn't make sense to me.
So for your 20, how long have you been operating?
I'm clever as Daniel. I can't connect the dots.
How long have you been operating? How long have you been operating under a CAW?
I just told you the history.
How many years?
I started looking at this when I was managing Philadelphia Park. So I would say, and define CAW. It keeps improving all the time. As technology advances, you have to adapt and you have to improve.
So let's just take
define the different categories and how long it's transitioned from semi-pro to CAW, low end of CAW, higher end of CAW, and maybe we get to that holy grail and get to the top of the ATP. But the real holy grail is the God model. Nobody has a crystal ball.
So just take
you, Daniel, to find out that probably the best CAW. This is me, but I'm just going to take a ballpark. They're not even 55% of the way there to getting to the God model that knows the outcome of a race.
So just take 2025. Like 2025, your CAW model. How profitable were you in 2025?
What do you say it again?
If you took 2025, how profitable was your CAW or your group for 2025?
How profitable were you?
I was negative.
Okay. 2025 was a building year, and I'll leave it at that. Yeah. Even some of the best models at some point, if you don't keep working at it, fall down that ladder.
So you were in the red? You were negative last year?
Didn't quite get into the red. But I do know others that did get into the red, and I can at least two of them.
So let me ask you this.
It became increasingly competitive, and you know what? They're back at it again. They're not saying they can't get there. They're all
so how do you? So when you're in the red, so just a general. I'm just asking a simple question because I know CAWs raise capital, right? You guys have investors. Certain CAWs maybe more than others.
Why do you say you know that? If you know that, state it. What do you know?
Well, when you when you talk to investors or talk to people that are putting money into the CAW market or a particular CAW, what's the selling point? What is the selling point?
Daniel, I don't know of any CAW that is in the upper side of that bell curve that takes money from outside investors. None of them.
It's just all internal. Okay.
Well, they don't need it.
And they had to grow to get there. And before they can grow big enough, they have to use some kind of money management system, maybe a Kelly criterion, something that will give them some kind of limitation on the liability they're willing to accept relative to the strength of where they think their model is at. And then sometimes that's going to be a guess when you go and you back test it, you go into the live market, and lo and behold, it didn't perform as well as you thought it would because the market reacted differently than what you had planned. And then you go back and you remodel again. You go back and you remodel again, and you keep doing that again and again and again until you get something that works. It is not a one-size-fits-all. It never was. These things are really difficult, and they're more difficult the further up that bell curve you
How
get.
how much money do you think you churned last year in 2025?
I'd have to look at it. I'd have to take a ballpark guess. Just in North America, I don't know. I mean, what is the total handle from CAW play? According to NYRA, what is it, down 30% on them?
Well, it was. I think Michelle said it was around 5 billion collectively, like last year. But I don't know if it's that high.
Well, I mean, the way I define a CAW player, that's pretty much everybody except somebody like me at Saratoga on the day we went to the races. I go up to the window and have physical bets. Why? Because I enjoy it.
So then, shoot. Let me ask you this: do you? And you're hearing Don, I presume, being very transparent about
Yes.
a hard year. So hear me out. If the industry saw maybe that some of the CAWs, they don't have to have their initials there, but if you saw how many CAWs were losing money or scraping by or crushing it, because I don't know if you know this, Shu, there is one behemoth right now that's completely dominating the CAW market. And also I've heard that he doesn't play some of the time, and it's because he wants better rates, and he's so good, and he doesn't want to show what he's doing because he won't tip his hand. And so there's one CAW that I've heard is the primary reason for NYRA losing a lot of their handle. So I think I'm going to mute you for a sec, Don. But just the handle alone from one CAW could be the major drop in NYRA, which shows that a lot of other CAWs are willing to play that way with waiting for 2 minutes to post. So I'm gonna like just end on some of the CAW with this. If you, Shu, want this kind of information about what the CAWs are doing, I think that's totally fair. I think there should be some visibility, some dashboard that shows not you shouldn't know exactly what Don makes every year or his team makes.
No, and I don't need to, right?
Yeah, but you should have, the public should know, because I believe in marketing the players, the best, the elite. If there's a God player, whatever it is, I think that people should have the ability to.
Everybody's trying to get to that level.
Yeah, so
for sure. Yeah,
So
I don't think, and I agree. Like Don, like to your credit, you just said you were in the negative last year. 99.9% of horse players would absolutely love to hear that. They would be like, wow, like that actually makes me feel better about me going to the track every day.
Players that did go negative last year.
Yeah, but see, we never hear that. So Don, like to your credit, that's great. That's fantastic. That's real data.
Here is something that I would be an advocate for. And this is me personally. I'm sure that I'm going to get some pushback from some people within the CAW community. And this lends itself to my statement about not all models are created equal. Not all these pools are created equal. And look, I commend NYRA for its efforts in trying to find some balance for long-term sustainability in their pools. I get it. I understand what they're trying to do. And a lot of the things that they're doing, I'm on board with. I mean, you have to be on board with, or you have to exit the pools. So let's try it. As David O'Rourke said to me, if it doesn't work, we pivot and try something different. You got to do something. But I think other tracks, that may not be the right business model or financial ecosystem inside your pool for you, because different markets require different things. Each track, you can't be lazy about it. Don't wait for NYRA to set guardrails that you think are going to unilaterally work for your pool. Do your own optimization exercise. It's available to you. And I say that respectfully because these tracks are the only ones that can see inside their own pools. They can see where the volume is distributed. They can see the pays and plays.
And to that point, Don, like that's something that not me, but other horse players on Twitter have expressed real concern for. Is they'll see data reports every week for handle at certain racetracks, and a lot of folks in the industry would love to see. Okay, you know, Saratoga did $85 million in handle last weekend. What percentage of that is CAW handle? And they'll never release that info. And to us as horse players, it's like, well, why wouldn't you release that information?
Daniel,
To us, it makes no sense.
Respectfully, to get to define CAW, define retail, define. I doubt that all of that drop that they see in CAW handle, some of that logic, I'm not going to say that they were doing the betting, but that logic might have wound up in that retail space as well, just not at the volume. And then they're going to say, okay, I'm okay with that because maybe I get a higher fee there. Maybe I don't get a higher fee there, depending on what channel it finds its way back into the pool. So I don't believe that all of that retail bump that they're claiming, and maybe it is, but only they can see that number. Only they can define what's in that lump.
But do you think it's fair for us to ask? Do you think it's fair for us to ask and say, okay, 85 million was bet at Saratoga last weekend. Let's say 15 million or whatever number that was CAW.
Well, they have said, you're asking, and they have stated this is what they believe happened. I just don't know how do they identify that the area of overlap where some of that logic from
well, they're rebating CAW players at a certain level where it should be pretty easy for them to measure how much of their pool or handle for a certain week or month or summertime or meet, whatever it might be, what percentage of that was CAW handle versus retail handle.
Yeah, that's only through one channel. You're missing my point. Maybe
well, can we at least get that?
They have a different fee structure when it comes to a different channel. I think that you are seeing some of this benefit for the semi-pro. They are getting bumped up a bit. It's just not that noticeable because there's a lot more people in the semi-pro area of that bell curve than there are up closer to the top. The closer to the top you get, it's tougher. So when NYRA did that, I think some of that logic did find its way back down here into part of what they define as the retail market. I don't know what that number is because I can't see their detail reports. But
and that's what we as retail players would love to know.
It requires them to do more of an optimization study to determine whether or not are we at a tipping point where we need to do. Are we pivoting or are we going to continue with this? I don't know. Okay. But what I'm saying is that other tracks need to do their own optimization exercise and make a determination. What is enough? Contribution to, let me just put my racetrack hat back on again. I'm managing a track. I can now see what's in my pools. Am I not allowed to defend myself to protect the long-term sustainability of my pool and my track? Of course I am. I get my tote report and whatever's in it. I'm going to look through it and I'm going to try and say, okay, I feel that the contribution that this player or whoever it is that is making to my pool isn't as much as what they're taking out of my pool, and I need an adjustment there. And I need to be able to do that either through pricing or through restriction.
So let me ask you this, Don. So you bring up some really good points here. So do you actually believe, and I say this respectfully, but do you believe these tracks are going to have the proper manpower and brain power to do this optimization? I mean, do you feel, given that the sport is dying, that there should be some responsibility from
Christian, with today's technology? Yes, I believe it. If I were managing a track again, there is enough technology out there for me to actually do these exercises accurately. And
I think you should help them. I think you should help them.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, somebody's got to come up with a toolkit that this consortium of tracks that really want to protect themselves can actually find some kind of a realistic balance and not just be a sheep and following, let's just do what they did because maybe that will work for me. Some of these tracks won't last long enough for that to work for them. If we lose Seattle, we've lost Portland. If we lose Seattle, we won't have any racing between British Columbia, the entire western seaboard, all the way down to Santa Anita and Del Mar. If Santa Anita goes, what happens to California racing?
Yeah, it's over.
They're actually a public facility. They're a fairgrounds. Can they survive? Will they have enough critical mass left? They saw the bump in horse population.
This is my ask. This is my ask. Then is like, if you know in 20 years, what are the pools going to be like? Are they going to be gone? In 10 years, are they going to be gone? So what I'm saying is that the velocity is increasing and accelerating towards eradication. It's just like going to be 20 or 30 or 40 elite teams. Don't you feel some responsibility to assist in the sustainability of these pools, whether it's through helping the marketing of it, through having some visibility on the CAWs? I love the idea of
I'm always available to help where I can. I don't want to see diminished pools. I
believe that. So what I'm saying is just hear me on the final points. Man versus machine. Even though you're not a machine, you're Don Johnson, but there's this idea of like being this cyborg, Matrix.
It's not the Matrix, and it's not Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Terminator.
I know, but you see, Shu's the man of the people, and he's the guy.
I respect that. I really do.
Perception is reality.
We can agree to disagree. I'm very comfortable with that.
Yeah, but what's cool about it is this: it's exciting to know were the CAWs on this horse. Did they have this 40-1 shot? Did they have, did they have this horse in the Breeders' Cup that surprised? Did they have Tio Elvis? Was it just one team? Was it multiple teams? But it's like what I'm saying right now is the sport is eating itself alive by tearing everybody down. And yeah, people make mistakes. Jockeys don't give good rides. Who knows if they hold horses? Trainers do things. Owners do things. People misspot horses. I mean, people. There's just something about the Rice's horses today not being at Saratoga, and I don't even know what that's all about. But my point is, we need good stories, and the good stories to me come from competition based on the game of trying to predict the future of these crazy animals running in circles. So that's what I'm asking for. Is I think we need more transparency across the board, across the players. That doesn't mean everybody should know who everybody's betting on. But I love the competition of it. And so are you cool with maybe even helping out a little bit with this? Like, I really think it doesn't have to be just you, but I do think these tracks need to have like a sit down with you and maybe some other people that can help them optimize.
I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely agree. We need a subcommittee that is appointed by a consortium of the tracks that is made up of horsemen, track operators, people like Daniel, people like yourself, where I'm happy to contribute to that any way that I can. That subcommittee really goes through some constructive workshops to come up with some kind of a balance within the pools that works for everybody. There's always going to be players that win and players that lose. The beauty about, I love this industry because most people know my background with beating up on casinos. That was a side thing that I did for a while, by the way. And as I said earlier, it's very simple to do the whole blackjack thing because it's a rudimentary exercise in math. A lot of that is just memorization. So you can't build a business, though, based on my success is their demise. Somebody is going to have to quit at some point. Where the beauty about these pools is that we can all have a cohesive relationship if we're all good stewards of the pool. But
are you banned from casinos?
What's that?
Are you banned from playing at casinos?
Well, define banned. They don't want me playing. I mean,
so the average person knows that you're banned from playing at casinos and as part of a CAW. What do you think the average person says to that?
He's really smart.
Yeah, why would that be?
Really smart, or you take an edge?
What are you looking for when you're betting? An edge?
Everybody's looking for edge.
Or you look, yeah, of course. Isn't that the name of the game? Isn't that what we're all supposed to be doing, is defining an edge and an inefficiency in a pool, in a market, and trying to bet into it and maintain.
And that tells the average person all they need to know.
But hold on, Shu. Let's not hate on people trying to find edge. I'm looking at horses, and
he's banned from playing in casinos, and he's part of a CAW group.
Hold on. What I'm saying is, edge is one thing. We're always looking for an edge. Like, that's human nature. There's a question of whether it's ethical. That's what we're talking about also with this HISA stuff. These matter when you earn them, I think, through hard work and diligence and just, looking at pattern recognition, whatever. So my question to
Now,
you
well,
guys is,
Christian, let me just answer this because I think it's important to clear it up where Daniel's question is concerned. I said define ban. I'm not banned from going into a casino. They have asked me politely, and they were gentlemen about it, and women, and they says, we would prefer that you don't play this game in our casino. And I'm okay with that. And a lot of these casinos, some of them I'm good friends with them to this day. I have a gentleman's agreement with some properties that I don't play certain games there. But maybe I want to go there and get comped at dinner. Maybe I want to go there and stay in some of the suites. Then I will play a certain game, and this gets back to the balance in the pools. I will have to play a certain game a particular way, call it the tipping point that Naira, it's guardrails. And under those guardrails, yes, I can still go in and play. I choose not to play under those new guardrails, and that's okay. Or I'm going to play differently because I'm playing for something else now. I'm still getting a reward.
And I think on behalf of every horse player, we hope those guardrails are implemented for CAWs.
They have been. They have
More
been.
of them.
So where's your problem?
do you have a problem, Don, if everybody has to bet that's a CAW that gets, maybe more than half a rebate or pays half the price? Do you have a problem if all the bets go in the first like 10 minutes? Is that going to destroy your model, or do you think that CAWs?
I don't have a problem with each track doing exactly what I suggest, and that's do their own optimization exercise to determine the value that's coming into their pool versus how much is going out. Every track
that sounds a little political when you say it that way.
Nah, it's the same thing that you're saying. I don't know what the right number is because I don't see their numbers. I can't tell you what it is.
And I'm just asking like a time. Like if I said you have to bet within, all the CAWs have to bet all their money within 10 minutes to post, is that going to be a problem?
Well, they're doing it at Naira, aren't they?
I don't.
There is a cutoff.
I think
Doesn't matter if the cutoff
too. But I'm saying set the market really early, set it even earlier, so that the retail players can even have more reliability.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary. Why would you go 10 minutes, 5 minutes? I think Naira's guideline at 2 minutes is probably adequate. That gives everybody.
I think I'll speak on behalf of every horse player. I hope they put in guardrails like the casinos did to you and ban CAW play altogether. Because you know what? You can download the ExpressBet app, you can download a Twin Spires app, and you can put in bets just like every other Joe Schmo in this country. But you guys think you can play by special rules and have your own little special privileges, and it's going to end, and it's going to end soon, and I can't wait for it.
But Shu, if you did that, just so you know, if you did that, you would walk away from,
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't, because they'd still bet. They'd still bet on their phones. They'd still, if they really believed in their systems, they would still go to the windows and they'd still use their apps to do it. They don't need all these special privileges and red carpet service because they're big money CAW groups, money laundering across the country. Play like everybody else.
Daniel,
Man up and play like everybody else.
That's enough.
You want special privilege. You want special privilege. You want special privilege.
Stop it.
And gamble like everybody else. And gamble like everybody else.
I'm not going to let you make accusations.
Do you have an ExpressBet account?
Of course I do.
Then why don't you just put bets in on your ExpressBet account?
Who says I don't?
Well, you have a CAW group, so apparently you don't.
It's not a one-size-fits-all. I can do what I want as an individual.
Of course you can, and you're given carte blanche from racetracks because you gamble so much money.
Carte blanche. There are guardrails in place at every track's level. Every track.
Big time guardrails.
Just because you can't see them doesn't mean that other people can't.
Name one guardrail you face as a CAW.
You've already been talking about it this entire conversation. The Naira guardrail.
Naira, you can still bet doubles and exactas and trifectas inside 2 minutes.
Hellmers is another guardrail.
Yeah. Okay. So
and I keep telling you, it's still never going to be a one-size-fits-all. Tracks have to do their own exercise to determine what the value is for their pool. You can't determine that. I can't determine that. None of us can on this call because we don't have all those numbers.
You're driving away horse players left and right. You're destroying the gambling game. You're destroying it.
Shu, here's the thing. There's always going to be people that are smarter than everybody. Even Don. There's people.
Then bet on your app. Then put the bet in at the window on your app.
Guys that are way smarter, they're already here.
Don't hide behind your computers. Don't hide behind your computers.
And those are the guys that are in the semi-pro range, Daniel, and they are closing that gap rapidly. And guess what? They're smarter and better than you too. Well, I don't know if they're smarter. They're better at this than you are. And they're all using handheld devices. They use their computer, and they're coming in through different gateways, and they're still beating the market. These guys are really good.
And they're destroying the game. They're destroying the game.
You wouldn't define them as a CAW player.
I mean, that's a good point, Shu. Is a lot of these guys that might be destroying the game in the sense of knocking the odds down may not even be getting the rebates of the top 20 teams. So there's just smart money. So my question is for you, people are always going to be smart and smarter. So you just have to understand that the market today is it's the maximize for efficiency in all-time history. And now you have AI, and now you have all these new data sources. So that's just evolution. Like it's never, I mean, we can't go back in time. So let's not try to do that. And I don't want to make it seem like if you can't hit a 3-point shot, Shu, we're not going to move it in 3 or 4 feet.
All the money these CAWs are betting, the grand scheme of things, the handle in this country
from my team if you
down.
can't make the 3-point shot because you're probably not tall enough to be a center or a point guard.
But I'm just saying, all the money that CAWs play, the handle overall in this country is down millions and millions of dollars.
So Shu, just let me ask you this then. If the odds were, let's say, 15% better, let's say the 4-to-1 shots are now 6-to-1 or whatever it is, do you actually believe horse racing would be more successful? I know that you would be happy. I know that a lot of the guys that have walked away would still be here.
He would only be happy until he found out there's still somebody above him that is still beating him.
No, I never pretend to be the best gambler. I'm a terrible gambler.
You're attributing drops in handle entirely to the CAW community when a lot of
because you're driving people away. Look at the average exacta and trifecta in this country versus 10 years ago. You guys are driving retail players away.
Are they driving people away from breeding horses when the full crop?
Yes, the full crop's down. Yeah, everything's down.
But yet the number of yearlings sold last year at sales went up. It's ticked up every single year. Full crop
Don't
goes
defend
down.
the breeding. Don't defend the breeding industry.
I'm not defending. I'm just saying somebody explain that anomaly to me. I asked that question at the panel, or not from the panel, of a panel.
That goes back to HISA and maybe some of these rules about how horses can use medication and stuff. But Shu, I want to say one more thing, and then I want to go back to HISA and talk about the edge of the vet stuff. But if we had 8 horse fields right now, Shu, 8 and 9 horse fields right now, your problem of these exactas being smashed would be gone. It wouldn't exist.
He's right. You wouldn't notice it.
That's not true. You notice it. There's big time. You notice it. You notice exactas getting hit late. You notice doubles getting hit late. I'm at Saratoga every weekend. You notice it.
You notice it because the field size is dramatically lower than what it was.
No, I'm just saying you look at your pools, you look at your will pays, your probables, and they're loaded into the gate.
The pools go down relative to field size.
No, I'm talking about probables.
Relative to full crop.
No, I'm talking about will pays and probables in the market.
Daniel, I don't want to get into this is about name calling, but
go ahead.
No, it's all right.
Go ahead, Don. Let's hear it.
No,
you say it, Don.
When I get to know you better, then
you can say it. Listen, you're in my neck of the woods right now. You're in my neck of the woods right now. You can say it. You can say it.
Now you're out in Ohio. I'm right there.
No, but I'm a Jersey boy. I'm a Jersey boy.
Right now. I'm in Atlanta.
You're in my backyard. There's my people down there. You can say it. You're not going to offend me.
You wouldn't offend me either. No,
save it for later.
I promised myself that we're not.
You can say it. Listen, you can say it. I've heard things about you. I'm not going to say them on here. I've heard things.
Yeah. Well. Precisely why neither of us need to go there.
Okay, so let's agree to keep.
Don's the president of the Bob Baffert fan club.
No, well, we're not going to talk about Bob Baffert. As you said, it's in the past. It's over with. There's There's been a disposition to the case, and there's no sense in talking about
That's
it.
right. Rest in peace, Medina.
Yeah.
Okay, so then back to HISA, and let's wrap this up in the next 10 minutes. Do you both believe, or let me not say do you, to what extent is the value of having the HISA history of the medical records of every horse? Do you believe, on a scale of 1 to 10, if you had what Gramm had, how much do you think it would help you? Would it be a 5, a 7, a 10, a 2? I want to know from both of you, based on what you've heard, Shu, you talk to freaking everybody, and Dawn, based on your analytical side, do you believe, now this sucks for trainers because people should not be sharing what they do to help horses, and I do think Lisa has a good point that if the horsemen and the vets are doing this in privacy, they may not ever share it again if it's public, which is
All
a
the
major
more reason to put it all out there in the clear.
No, they won't do it. They won't even share it anymore. They won't volunteer the information.
I think they should have to. I don't see any reason. It's not. I was told it was protected. I was told it was protected by HIPAA. We're not asking for somebody's family pet, whether your dog got neutered or whether you had a pig in your backyard that needed his hooves trimmed. We're not looking for that. We're asking for the historical data relative to a horse's medical history, horses that are running in contests that are used to determine the outcome of a public contest that people are investing in, betting on. Why does that?
But if the vets won't do it, but Dawn, how do you enforce that? How do you enforce a vet who knows when they say they injected a horse or shockwave or this or that? How do you get the vet to actually report it? I mean, now you're talking about millions and millions of dollars.
You make it a requirement, and then if they don't report it, then it's found out, then you penalize them, like you do for anybody else who's breaking the rules.
More money. That's more money. We don't. The sport has no money.
The vets in this industry are some of the most corrupt individuals in the sport. Period. Stop. I had a trainer text me today. You ready? Here you go. Trainer text me today. We've claimed a ton of horses. Their HISA records show nothing. Like some of the more sore horses coming from big barns never got tapped or given a shot. Come on. Marshall G couldn't get the exact records. These scumbags inject and don't even put it in the system. That's the problem. So today, before all this hit, people aren't putting it in the system. Now, with this stuff getting leaked out, you're going to see even less stuff reported in the system. It's a big problem. Transparency all around. And again, as horse players, whether you're a CAW or a retail player, we all want more transparency. We want to know if a horse got gelded. We want to know if a horse had throat surgery. Now, the problem is talking to a lot of HISA folks, talking to some of the HISA folks, the problem with some of these, the problem with some of these treatments, Christian, is that they can be perceived as negative to horses. And the folks in the jockey club and the powers that be don't want you to see that a horse had shockwave therapy and this therapy because the wrong people, the uninformed folks in the sport, take that as a negative and we're treating horses badly. And that's the reason we're never going to see it all in a form of a PP like Marshall Gramm had.
Look, I don't have the medical training to make an assessment on whether shockwave therapy is something that is a beneficial medical procedure. I guess it is definitely better than pin firing and putting a caustic counter irritant blister on a horse. This is definitely better than doing that if that's what it's replacing. That I leave up to the veterinary community at large to be transparent about it. What is the discussion about shockwave therapy? I don't know. I don't know what benefits they're really deriving from it. Are you suggesting, I don't think that you are, neither is any of us, we're not suggesting that horses shouldn't be treated for medical ailments that happen to them. They're animals. My dog or cats, they go to the vet. Should I never take them to the vet? No, you need to. Horses need to be treated just like other sports athletes do. It's just that when they are, why is it such a secret? We get injury reports for the NFL.
Because we don't educate the public about these treatments to horses. And the average PETA person that comes on and sees it, they think it's something. You see, if a PETA member comes on and sees shockwave therapy on a horse, they're going to raise concerns and raise red flags. That's the reason when I talk to handicappers, that's why we don't get that information. Whether you agree with it or not, that's the reason.
Well,
Okay, you're
you know
back.
what I think. I think that it should
Can you
be
hear me?
public, but that doesn't mean everybody's going to agree with me. I don't see a good reason why it's predominantly not public. I get it. And you're right, that could be, but that is up to the veterinary community to respond to that. Is this a proper therapeutic treatment? We've had treatments for cancer. We have peptides for everything now in human health. Why are we so afraid to talk about the medical condition, including treatments that all horses that are eligible to run in races in North America, that their medical records aren't made public?
It's just the nature of the beast. It's unfortunate, but I mean, you see in California what California racing goes through on a daily basis. The overall general perception of certain treatments is that it's not great for the horse, right? Shockwave therapy it helps a horse, but it's not the prettiest treatment ever, and they just don't want that to be taken and ran with the wrong people, and that's why we don't get all the vet data. I agree with you, Don. We should get it,
But
and the average horse player can look at it.
Up to the veterinary community to get together and say, hey, agree on some standard treatments for different ailments that these horses go through, and agree that these are proper or that they're not proper? Isn't that what they're doing with medication? Whether it be Lasix, whether it be how much bute or how much.
The veterinary community in horse racing probably has one of the worst reputations in the country. So unfortunately, we can't answer that.
Well, I have to believe that predominantly that community is honest. I don't think people go through that many years of vet school to become a doctor just to mistreat horses. I can't believe that. I can't believe that our society has gotten to that point.
It's amazing what you do for money.
I don't think that that's the case. I think you'll find that most people are honest or want to be honest and want to find legitimate treatments for these horses.
Well, what I find interesting about what you said, Don, is that you believe it is the responsibility of the horse racing industry to control its narrative and manage it and really educate people to understand that we are doing what's best for the horse, and that sometimes things can happen, and we're doing everything we can to prevent anything that could potentially lead to a horse being, drugged to run negatively or performance enhancing. So that's an interesting view. So right now, just to wrap this up on the HISA thing, you believe that it's the best interest of the industry at large and for horse players to have a public domain or a portal where every single treatment of horses should be available to everybody? And if so, do you think that the vet report the right information of what they're doing?
HISA is the biggest waste of money in the history of the sport. They can't test for anything. The only thing they can test for is if they're being told, oh, we heard this horse had been given this, we can test for that specifically. They have failed us and the sport miserably. Private training centers, private farms, horses shipping in, you don't get any information, and HISA has no idea what's going on. We saw it with the Fairhill 5. We saw it with what happened at racetracks with people drugging horses. They have no idea what's going on. When crime gets bad in the inner city and in certain communities, you put police on foot. You put them on foot and you talk to people and you find out the truth. HISA sits in their offices. They wait for lab reports that show absolutely nothing. This game is dirtier than it's ever been. It's a sad reality, and HISA has failed us every step of the way.
I don't share that sentiment. I think
you like HISA?
No, I didn't say I like it. I don't like everything that HISA does, but the industry couldn't come together on creating a uniform rules of racing for permissible medications. That's how HISA became what it is today. Do I agree that in the manner in which they administrate? No, I don't. But I think in the absence of having it, then what do we do? Do we go back to having different racing commissions try to police on a national level a uniform rules of racing for medication?
HISA has failed this industry more than anything in the past 50 years. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars. They're not catching the criminals in this sport. We know horses are coming in from private farms. We know they're being administered things that they can't test for. They're always 2 steps ahead of the testing. And it's been a colossal waste of money. Not one gambler in this sport feels better today than they did 10 years ago. HISA, again, you want to catch the criminals, you go on foot. You create a program, a whistleblower program, and you have agents walk around the barns, and make those personal relationships and talk to the people within the barns. Otherwise, we have no shot because we can't test for what they're using unless it's specifically designated. We're spending tons of money that these racetracks can't afford. The cost of ownership for horses has skyrocketed because of HISA. And again, not one gambler, not one person in this game feels any better today about the sport than they did 10 years ago.
You paint a very bleak picture there. And I can't say I disagree with you on every part of what you're complaining about. I think that we are better off than where we were before without having any set of agreed upon uniform rules of racing around medication. We needed that. And we weren't getting anywhere for the longest time. When I sat, when I was with Philadelphia Park, I was a member of the TRA. And when we were looking for answers for this, we tried appointing a national commissioner. But then we never gave him the authority to do the job of a national commissioner. That's really what we need. Maybe HISA was a good beginning. And maybe we need to do what David O'Rourke said is a pivot now. Maybe we need to pivot from that into some different type of regulatory. And we'll see what happens if this case is heard by the U.S. Supreme Court. There might or might not be a HISA, or it might be some hybrid of what it is today. But I do believe that we're better off than where we were before they became what they are. How they're administering the funds and how they're used, yeah, well, that's a big debate. I think that they could be much more efficient in the way that they're administrating. But
I mean, I would say that we would be foolish to not acknowledge that the horse's welfare is better off now in some ways. So there's definitely been a lot of, demonstrations of less fatalities and so forth. So I give them credit for that. I don't have really much idea of really even knowing what they do because I don't own horses, but I hear whispers of things and lots of complaints. The fact that this did occur is just earth-shattering. Like, I cannot imagine that sounds like the most basic technology was just available to him. So I didn't get your answers. Do you actually think that would help somebody if they have that information, or do you think that they would it's just meaningless?
Well, that's the thing. When you asked me whether or not I thought there was a connection to a CAW player, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't add up to me. I don't believe so. Whether or not it would help, I don't know. You would have to do some kind of analysis on all that data to see if it has any value in some kind of a analytics trend. And if it does have value, where does it have value? How do you weight it without causing overfitting of other things that are already in the data? So there's a lot more moving parts to this than just saying, gee, if I knew that, I would be so much better at picking winners or creating probabilities. That's not necessarily true. The answer is, I don't know, and I don't think anybody else knows until they make the data public, and then you'll see people start analyzing it.
Okay, Shu, you wrap it up.
But if you're going to make it public to everybody. Let everybody have access.
Yeah, okay, well, Shu, you wrap it up. We got to get out of here. What's your final remark here about does that really matter for gambling? Obviously, it matters for claiming, but you end the show.
Yeah, I think it's a much bigger issue with the claiming game, and time would have probably told the tale with that. Obviously, working systems and looking back at certain trainers and seeing if you'd get data just like in your DRF. 38% winner after shockwave therapy. But initially, I don't think it would have helped too much. I know most of the players I speak to, it would have been good to know, but it also would have been a head scratcher as far as, well, am I going to use that horse or not? Now, if you have the data And if you see shockwave therapy and you see a horse who's 8-1 morning line open up at 3-1, you may scratch your head and say, people inside really think that helped the horse. I'm not going to leave this horse off. But time would have told. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And then the sample size needs to be big enough to actually create a direction.
Right.
There's no indicators there with 9 horses. I can't even tell you that if the information was used for claiming horses, would it have been successful if it was 100 horses? I don't know. I'm only looking at a 9-horse sample, and from my view, I'm looking at the purses earned versus what happened. I'm saying it was a failure. So, but that doesn't mean that it would be a failure over 100 claims. I don't know.
Right.
I mean,
fair enough.
The bottom line is not one person should have that information alone and using it for their edge. So we all agree on that. But I think, yeah, it's interesting how this, everyone thinks that this, is turned into this crazy betting coup. I don't know what to believe. I'm depressed that every single thing I read is negative. I love this game. I'm trying to do stuff to help this game. I want to create ways for new fans to come in, and it's just, the third scandal in a month or two, which is sad, but hopefully, we'll turn this page. But I do think, Don, it was good to have you on, and I'm glad that you were able to propose this idea of a subcommittee. Hopefully, maybe O'Rourke and maybe some of the other industry execs will pull you in. I'm happy to contribute. I'm sure Shu would show up with his sunglasses and a glass of wine. But either way, it's
by the way, these are not a vanity thing for me. I actually can't see without them. It has the blue thing so I don't get blinded by the screens.
Yeah, no, Don, they don't look.
It's what I'm.
They don't look as good as Shu's glasses anyway. They don't look as good as Shu's glasses. So don't worry about it.
Don, it was a pleasure, my man. Christian, always a pleasure. I appreciate it.
My
like I
pleasure
said,
as well. Would love
from
to
a
meet
horse
you in
player.
person sometime.
Yeah, and Don, like I said,
New Jersey.
hey, Atlantic City, baby, here we come. But like I said, I think horse players, at the end of the day, the more transparency when it comes to vet records or a CAW play, because again, Don, if you hit the pick 6 tomorrow and you singled a 10-1 shot, I'd be like, fuck yeah, Don. Like, what did he see in that 10-1 shot? Like, I'd dig into my PPs and be like, oh, I looked at the replay again and I saw the horse had trouble and this and that. Like, horse players love that. We eat on that. Like, we feed on that energy.
Some horse players might love that. It's just it's kind of a privacy thing. Do you really want other relatives reaching out to you asking for money after you hit the lottery?
But it doesn't have to be your name on it. You know what I mean? Like, if you hit a ticket at Gulfstream and you said, hey, we hit it, and you sent it to the Gulfstream marketing department and they posted, they didn't have to say it was Don's CAW group. They could just say, hey, here's the group that hit it. Here's their ticket. I think most horse players would be like, fucking awesome. Like, that's great.
Well, they're
not going to say that, dude. They're not going to like to see the CAW.
That's a question for the industry and each track, whether or not they want to disclose it. They know who hit it.
We want them to disclose it. The horse player wants them to disclose it. Trust me. And we don't care if it's your CAW group, if it's elite. We don't care. We just love to see it and learn from it. Be like, all right, okay, that ticket was just way too much money for me to handle. I could never afford that ticket. Or maybe they had 2 singles that really made sense when you look back and they went all in a race where they got a 30-1 shot. But you learn through your mistakes, whether you're playing the horses, whether you're betting on football. And it's cool to see that. That's the only thing that the average horse player would love to see from the CAW groups.
Well, I can tell you when we blank on one of those big pick 6s or a big pick 5.
And that too, like that'd be great. Like what the hell? There's plenty of losing tickets on horse racing Twitter. Plenty.
It happens more often than you think it happens. And, it's not painless. It hurts.
I agree. Listen, it's not painless for us. So it's actually like fun to hear other people's pain. When Dave Portnoy posts his big sports bets and loses, I feel like more people are interested in those than his wins, because the average gambler is what? They're a loser. The average gambler, the casinos are in business for a reason. Racetracks are in business. The average gambler loses. So we almost feel joy in that accompaniment of another losing ticket. But the more transparency around the game and CAW play, I really think would go a long way for the retail horse player. That's all I'll say.
Well, shoot, why do you think your favorite show is The Bachelor? So you can watch all the girls get voted off. Everybody
There you
wants to
go.
see everybody.
Hey,
There you go.
I'll say this: there's no guy that's interested in women. Look, all guys that are interested in women, we're at a deficit. They control us.
That's right. That's right.
There's no advantage play for us.
Fair point. That is right on.
Well, if you can.
All right,
if
it
you
was
can
a
crack that
pleasure,
code,
boys. I'm heading to dinner in downtown Cleveland. Enjoy Atlantic City, Don.
Will do. Enjoy
Thanks for
Cleveland.
being good
Get over to
sports.
Cafe 2825. Great spot.
I just went to Tony Baltimore's Grill. What's it called?
Okay.
It was cool.
It was good.
I love.
Go to
It's great. I
Cafe-
love those old school
Cafe
places.
2825. 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Cool.
No more plugs. Shoot. Go back in the shadows. Okay.
All right. Later, guys. Thank you, Christian.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
boys. Good night.